evening with welcome to Trustee Desiree Watkins, who formerly supports and serves her community here in Olympia Fields as a trustee and very active member of the government here. Uh, we want to send shout outs to her and her efforts. Just being here tonight demonstrates the type of candidate that she is, and also demonstrates it's just a continuation of the way she's handled her current position in village government. Um, Desiree is running opposed by the current sitting president of the village, Sterling Burke, and by a current sitting trustee, Cassandra Matz, all of whom were invited tonight, and only Desiree took the time out to talk to her public and to have this great discussion we're going to have this evening. And I guarantee you it will be a great discussion, just knowing the candidate. So there are some ground, I want to tell you a little bit before I get to the ground rules. I'd like to talk a bit about SOS. SOS is a group of folks who found it really, really, really necessary to get involved with our school district at the secondary level, and that would be 227, Rich Township 227. So we were a loose group of women, men, who all had the same types of concerns. And this group, SOS, came out of that piece. We are a grassroots group whose purpose it is to promote a community that is informed, educated, activated to ensure a well-educated, empowered electorate that will utilize that power of the vote to place into office well-vetted and qualified governmental officials who understand that they are in office as public servants to serve well their electorate. And we want to really underscore that last line. It's because we've been through 4 years of folks elected to the higher levels, the highest levels in this country, who forgot or never recognized or never knew that their election was to serve the public. And we are very serious in SOS about getting that message out. We do have rules of engagement. We do ask candidates needed to arrive on time, or if they were late, we would not admit. There will be an opportunity for everyone to log on up to 15 minutes before the forum start, and that was that lull time that you experienced in the waiting room. Candidates will be required to have their camera on with full view of their person or face, as there will be participants with visual auditory challenges that are hearing impaired and lip read. Next slide. Oh, audiences and or candidates should mute their microphone while others are speaking. So just please try to keep these things in mind. It's a lot. Audience members should have their first and last names displayed on their video frame. If assistance is needed to modify the display name, alert the host verbally or through the chat function. Please be respectful, polite, and courteous to everyone present during the forum. Please tell us your name before you ask the candidates a question, preferably with your video or camera on during the interaction. Please speak in clear, normal voice volumes throughout the forum so that everyone may hear and understand your communications. As there will be participants again with visual auditory challenges that are hearing impaired and lip read, so we have to keep them in mind. Please make certain you follow directions, rules of proper decorum to the best of your ability. Under no circumstances will disruptive, rude, accusatory, or otherwise demeaning behaviors be tolerated. Participants behaving this way will be removed and not allowed to re-enter the event. Ask one question at a time, please. If you have multiple questions, please type them in the chat so we can get to them and answer them as we rotate pulling questions from our 3 pools of questions, which includes event questions that happened tonight, pre-event questions that were posed before the event, and from the questions off of the questionnaire that we asked each of the candidates to complete. And by the way, of the 3 candidates, Desiree Watkins, Trustee Desiree Watkins, was the only one who did fill out that questionnaire. So she is going to be fully vetted by this organization. And while the others, I can't answer for that, but I hope the voters are noting that, listening to that. I need us to know that this session is being taped and recorded, and it will show up on our website again, so that the candidates can refer people who missed out on this an opportunity to look in on it again and hear the questions asked and the comments. Okay, and I did explain the pool of questions, the questions mailed or questions that come through the pre-process, the pre-event process, questions that we submit tonight, and then questions that came off of the questionnaire that was mailed out by SOS. So we're getting ready to be started now in the best part of this, and that is with Trustee Desiree Watkins, formerly sits on our trustee board and is going to tell us a little bit about herself, more than she told us in this pre-session about herself. So start where you'd like.
Am I on, Constance?
You are on.
So good evening, everyone that has joined us this evening. I'm Trustee Desiree Watkins, and I'm running for village president. A little bit about my background. I started in accounting and finance. Let me tell you a little story since I have your attention.
Yes.
I worked at a company, a Japanese automotive company in accounting, and the company moved about an hour away from Detroit. And I did not want to move that far. I had a young child at the time. And so I went into a staffing company to find a job. And I'm interviewing. The interview obviously went well because the gentleman brought in a second person. That person came in, interviewed me, and said, "Hey, we want to hire you here." And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a sales position. I have an accounting background. I've never done sales before. I've never done recruiting before. And she said, wait a minute, I think you will be good for this. I'll match your salary. In 6 months, if you don't like it, or a year you don't like it, I will find you another job. Long story short, I took the position with no experience. I was the #1 recruiter within 6 months. Within 1 year, I did a startup for that particular company. And I ended up, that was the beginning of my career. I thought accounting and finance was my career, but really my career started when I worked for Accountants on Call as a headhunter. I later worked for Kelly Services. I was hired as a regional manager. I oversaw 16 offices, a budget of over 20 million. And then along came Prince Charming, and that would be my husband. And he lived in Chicago, and I had just built my house. Now, mind you, SOS, I'm in my 20s. I'm young. And I built my house in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And my mother said, okay, well, who is this person? Where are you going? You just built your house. I hadn't been to my house for 6 months. And Dr. Watkins came along. I moved to Chicago. And of course, the rest is history. But I came to Chicago, did not want to give up my career. So I worked for Kelly Services in Chicago. And then I decided that I wanted to do my own staffing company. So I started my own staffing company, Diversity Solutions. And I had one contract, CTA, which was enough for me because I had 60 temporary employees working there. And then I was trying to juggle between my company and my husband's company, and it just wasn't going to work for me. And so I started working with my husband at 2020 Eye Specialist. Again, no experience in medicine, no idea about billing, no idea about Medicare, Medicaid, Aetna, Blue Cross, no idea about ophthalmology. I had to study coding, diagnosis. But this is a pattern in my life. I take on positions, I tackle them, I learn them, and then more importantly, I succeed in them. So I took my husband's position or his company. He said the business started when I came along. I took the company from under 1 million to 5 million in less than 4 years. So this is what I do. And here I am now as the board of trustees for Olympia Fields. I'm also on the board of trustees for the DeSable Museum. I am on the board for the South region of United Way. I am on the board, executive board for Links Incorporated. I am socially on Smart Set and socially a part of Circle X. So I do have a full plate, but guess what? I can handle even more. More importantly, village president of Olympia Field.
Awesome. Awesome. So, why are you running for this office? Why do you want to be the president of Olympia?
Well, my why is the people, Constance, because when I moved here in 2014, I had no idea that this was going to happen. This wasn't planned for me. I didn't grow up and say, oh, I want to be a politician. That was not my dream. But I moved to Olympia Fields, and my neighbor was the president of the homeowners association. He came over, and I swear to you, my bags weren't even unpacked before he said, hey, we need a volunteer. Can you help us on the HOA? I said, sure. You know, I had attended a couple of meetings and loved the community. So happy I'm here. And I wanted to join. And I served 3 consecutive years. We are elected every year as treasurer. I took that bank account from 5,000 to 38,000 in the 3 years that I was on the HOA. And as we know, because we all have our own individual homeowners association, it's very difficult to get people involved. Mm-hmm. And that was a challenge when I moved here. But when we looked out in the audience, there would be 5 to 10 people in the audience. Within a year, the room was up to 45, 50 people. I started newsletters every month to everyone. I started mixing mingles for our community here in the trails. We did golf outings together. You know, I made sure that when I had a barbecue on my back porch, I invited my neighbors over. That's the type of community that I built in the trails, and that's what I want to extend to the rest of the village.
Well, let me expound on that. You're currently a sitting trustee. Mm-hmm. So are you in this just for those reasons you gave us, or are you finding challenges that you think you do a better job at overcoming?
Say that again, Constance.
So you're a sitting trustee. Mm-hmm. And are you just wanting to do the kinds of things that you talked about with public relations and bringing us all together? Or are you completely and totally satisfied with where government exists under this current administration?
Absolutely not. I'm not satisfied at all, which is why I'm running, because I see the potential. I try not to look at the glass as half empty. I try to look at it as half full, because Olympia Fields, despite all of our challenges, despite the things that we have in front of us, we really have a great opportunity here in our village, and that's how I look at it. And being a small business owner, I can see can see how the current administration is not connected to the business community. So it's one thing to bring commerce to our area. It's another thing for retention. So we lost U.S. Bank, we lost Chase Bank. We're in the process of losing Dunkin' Donuts. As a matter of fact, I just visited a business in Walmart, and I went into the store and I said, "Hi, I'm Desiree Watkins." He was like, "I've been waiting for you to come." He said, "Put your sign in my window." And I did put my sign in his window. And he told me that no one in 4 years has come to his business. And as a small business owner, I know that you expect certain things from your municipality. You expect, whether it's information, we're not expecting money per se, but information, transparency. Just stop in, say hello. It's really the little things that mean the most. And under the current administration, we don't have any relationships with our current businesses. We don't even have relationships with our constituents and barely have relationships with the trustees and the employees that are there. So it's a very sad situation. But again, I really see that that I can come in and make changes and actually bring people together because I consider myself a people connector. And I'm not a micromanager. I know how to work with people because I don't know if you realize this, that the village is run by our employees. It's not
Yes.
run by the elected
No.
officials. The elected officials are there just for checks and balances.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure that our people are taken care of. You know the old saying that your grandmother and mother used to say, take care of home. I'm here to take care of our home first.
As a member, member of the community, I've attended the meetings, especially pre-COVID. And what you were currently relating to us about business and nurturing the small businesses that are here, and even the larger ones that are here, um, in an effort to to keep and then build upon that. Um, we have committees who work to encourage business to stay and to come. We have a position that's being paid for, salary position. And when we look around, we still don't have a whole lot going on. And the fact that we have lost two major banks is a concern of the taxpayer and the voter like myself in Olympia Fields. Um, can you tell us a little bit about how you do that a little different? What would be the difference in how you would approach maintaining the commerce and then building on that?
Hmm. That's kind of a twofold answer to that question. Twofold meaning local and regional. So let's start locally. First of all, we'll hold people accountable to their jobs. That's first and foremost. There are a lot of people that are in positions or even hired as consultants that are not doing the actual job. And just like I mentioned earlier, as a recruiter, I was paid on commission. So, to me, if you're going to have a consultant or something, it should be tied to commission. When you bring in something, you get a percentage of it. But if I'm paying you just $75,000 a year, then you're not motivated to do much. And so I would actually structure, and we're just talking about locally at the municipality level. I would actually structure the committees and commissions differently. And I had this conversation with one of my neighbors, and my vision and my idea of the Economic Development Commission will be to have people that are actually in the businesses that own businesses here to be at that table. We shouldn't just pick our friends and family because I know this person, I'm going to put them on this committee. No, we actually need people that are doing business in our community. Somebody from Walgreens, somebody from Vizio, someone from Walmart, Franciscan Hospital. They should be sitting at that table. We should be communicating together because it's all about collaboration. And until we get out of that mentality of silos, thinking in silos, it's not really about Olympia Fields. Don't get me wrong. Olympia Fields is number one to me, but it's really not about Olympia Fields when you look at the bigger picture. It's not about Flossmoor, Madison, Chicago Heights, even Park Forest. We're all in this ship together. And either we're going to sail on the fantastic voyage or we're going to sink because we're all in it together. And so that brings me to the second part of that, which is regional collaboration. And as a small village, less than 5,000 people, 2.9 miles, there's not a lot that we can do. We can do a Bowmer corridor. We have some space to do other things. We have businesses or, office space that we can do other things, but we can't bring those big box companies here. But I don't know about you, SOS, but I'm into investing. I have a retirement account. I've invested in stock. What's wrong with us sitting at the table with our neighboring municipalities and investing in projects? The project with Pete, we should have been sitting at the table investing in that. When Myers came, we should have been sitting at the table investing in that. Mind you, we did get a phone call. The phone call was never returned. We need to hold our state reps accountable. We need to work with our state reps. We need to see what bills are on the table that's going to impact and move us forward, as opposed to isolating people around us. And that's what's happened under this administration.
Do we have any questions coming from the community?
At this time, we do not, and we also did not receive any pre-event questions.
Okay, well, wow, this is going to be great for you.
I'm ready for any questions.
I know you are. Listen to you. So let's converse a little bit more about that.
It's a question in the chat. I think Holly put a question.
Yep, we just got one right now. She said, "What are your plans for improved transparency?"
Well, actually, that's all me, transparency. I think, Holly, you should know this. I put everything on Nextdoor and Facebook, but appropriately, though. Nothing that's inappropriate. So I've been trying to pass a transparency ordinance since I've been trustee. In the beginning, I was trying to put it on the agenda, and no one paid any attention to it. So key would be to have a transparency ordinance. And the transparency ordinance, Illinois, we don't have to recreate a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Illinois has in place a 10-point transparency plan that we can actually go by and implement at a municipality level. So I definitely want to do that. But in addition to just transparency, which is communicating with residents and letting them know what's going on, sending out, newsletters that are based on truth and reality. Other than that, we need to also be transparent when it comes to our contracts. The village and the public should know what's going on with our expenditures. All of that should be transparent. And the current budget that we have is not a working budget. The average person, unless you have an accounting background and you see all these numbers on a page, you really don't know what you're looking at. So it should be a comprehensive budget that anyone can pick up and say, okay, this is where my dollars are going. This is where this is going. So that's all a part of transparency.
And speaking to that, let's expound on that just a little more. You hint at something that's very, I think, important for everyone, and that's leadership style. Let me get let's do a Venn diagram, so to speak. And let's ask you to think about the current leadership and how much you differ. I want you to describe what you think are your strongest points over what we're experiencing currently. So what are three things you that stand out in your mind right now that you say that puts me a cut above my competition?
Well, the difference is really night and day, okay, to start with. But I know I've dealt with people before. I have a background in human resources, and you have to have relationships with people. And the current administration is a very isolating individual. So he isolates individuals, and he rules more as a dictator than someone that is there to oversee checks and balances. Go back to checks and balances. We're paying our employees 6 figures. We don't have to do their job. That's what we hired them to do. We have companies that come in and audit. Matter of fact, we actually need to do get a new audit company, just so you know, you're supposed to change your audit company every 5 years, and we've had the same one for well over 5 years. And that is something in accounting, that's a no-no. But regardless of that, I know how to work with people. I know how to manage people. I know how to bring people together, not divide people. I know how to empower people to be the best that they can be. Because if you have happy people, you have a happy village, you have a happy, trustee board. It's a domino effect. And so when I talk to neighbors, they always say, I called to the village and the person was rude. The person didn't listen to me. The person, whatever the conversation was, the negative conversation was, I tell them, we have a great staff. I said, you need to look at the leadership because it's a domino effect on the leadership. So if you have poor leadership, then it reflects in the people that work there.
Well, are there any other questions out there? Does anyone else want to ask a question? I don't want to take up all of the questions, but I will. But if you do have a question, just let us know, and we'll tie my last question up, and we'll move into your question, because we do want the public, the voting public, to participate in this. And I know you have questions about the village, how it's run, and what kind of things we can look forward to. Should we elect to vote for Trustee Desiree Watkins as president of the Village of Olympia Fields? What are your top issues? What are 3 of the things that you'd like to see changed? You can't just wait to get in there because you can get to work at these 3 things. What would they be?
You know what, Constance? I'm not a career politician, right? So I don't like to, overpromise and under-deliver. I'm definitely gonna under-promise and over-deliver. I just want you to wake up one day and say, "Oh my God, look at that! That business is going up. Oh my God, look at this." That's my goal. But the top 3 of number 1, we talked about transparency. So that's something I can come in and immediately come in and do. The second is reorganizing the committees and commissions, because that's a part of how we do business. And I shared with you how I see the Economic Development Commission and how I see the CRC. Also, I can share that with you. To me, the CRC should consist of every HOA president. It should not be handpicked neighbor, friend, hello, are you available? No, because the HOA presidents have already shown you that they're committed to their community. And people get so caught up in, friendships or lack of friendships, or I don't like this person, or it's not about that. This is business. And if you have a community that, whether it's, lakes of Olympia Fields, whether it's the trails, whether it's Mangate, it doesn't matter. That particular community has trusted that person to serve them. So who am I to say that's not the right person to sit at the table? Just like as trustee, the people spoke as for me to be trustee. So the trustee should be the chairperson of the committees and commissions, not somebody appointed by the village president. It shouldn't work like that. So I'm not even thinking about myself. That's why my slogan is, I'm not running for office, I'm running for you. Most people going into this role would say, hey, I want to appoint all of the positions. Yeah, I want to appoint this, appoint that. That's not me. That's not how I do things. I believe that regardless of who the trustee is, they're elected by the people. They should be in charge of their committee. And then in addition to that, the co-chair should be appointed by the village president, whoever that co-chair is. And for example, back to CRC, I believe it should be all the HOA presidents. So reorganizing the committees and commissions where they're more inclusive, as opposed to, division. I mean, we're a small community, and we should act like a small community. And then the last thing is just clean cut collaboration, just working with our neighboring municipalities, working with our state reps. We've left money on the table that just because we didn't call somebody back. And I just think it just bothers me. And that's just like me throwing $400,000 out the window. I would never do that. So when I look at the three things that are easy to do and hitting the ground running within the first 100 days, that's something that I want to do. And moving past the 100 days, more of the long-term goal would be, having those conversations with businesses, having those conversations and trying to bring businesses here. I've already been in communication with the community bank. I know we did lose US Bank. I know we did lose Chase Bank. But let's be real, at the end of the day, those are big box banks. They don't really care about small communities. So we need to bring in a bank that's going to care about us, and more importantly, a bank that we all should invest in. We all should have an account maybe of $50, because once you bring a business in, you have to support it.
Right.
And when you talk about reparations, and I think that was one of your questions, when you talk about Black reparations, we can heal ourselves. As long as we streamline those dollars back to our community, there's no need to go outside. So we really got to start changing our mindset when we think about it.
Lee had a question.
Yep, I just saw it pop in. So Lee Langan, well, first he had a comment before I'd like to read out loud as well. It's okay, Lee, I've gotcha. So his comment first was, we currently don't have regular board meetings. The present administration went to one meeting per month, and it's not on a specific date. It appears meetings are scheduled for the president's convenience. And then I asked if there was a question regarding that topic, and he asked a different question. So the question is, how do you plan to partner with our education leaders to ensure the best student outcomes are achieved with the use of our high property taxes?
Lee, I'm going to get you for that. Yeah, so the school district, as you know, is different from the municipality, and our taxes are tied to school. And this, I'm learning, this is a long history of issues with 227 or Rich Township, way before I came and way before a lot of other people came. So as you know, I like working with people. I don't know Johnny's plan for Rich Central. And I want to share with you, beforehand, when he was looking at closing a campus, I was for him closing Rich Central. I really wanted that campus to be closed because that's land that we can use for commerce. And they have the amount of students that they have or had was okay for East and South. And so I was hoping that that would be passed. We could get rid of 227 and use that land for commerce because we don't have a lot of land. But fast forward to where we are today, right? He is looking at, or that he switched the school to a STEM program. And so I'm really going to look into how to make that and assist him because I'm very resourceful. And I say that because, I have a good friend that lives on the East Coast. He owns a career communications group, and that's what he specializes in, is STEM. And he's actually assisted other school districts in setting up STEM programs. Again, back to relationship, back to resources. Those are things that I bring to the table. So I can't really answer that question in its entirety because I want to research it. I want to look into what his vision is for the school and see if it coincides with what our vision is as a municipality. And when people ask me, what's your vision for Olympia Fields? I have to say that I do have a vision, but my vision is for the people. And so I want to have meetings. I want to have Zoom meetings if we're still in COVID. I want to find out what exactly do we want? How does Olympia Fields look to you? How does Olympia Fields look to you and to you? It's not all about me. I have a vision board, but my vision board may not look like yours. I'm going to bring some things to the table, but I'm looking to bring all of us together so we can have our clear vision together. So to answer your question, I will work with him, but I want to see where his head is before I can even answer that question.
Well, we do know that the schools, reputation on schools is closely tied to the sale of homes, the saleability of homes in communities. And right now, many of the village residents are having concerns uh, about that relationship. Just last night, we interviewed a person who's running for trustee, and Howard White. And Howard expressed the concern that he's had to send his children out of Olympia fields for secondary education opportunity. And already we know we're paying the highest taxes in the country. Um, we are, we're very, appearing more and more an underserved community. And so that makes it very difficult to market your house. If you're at that point where you want to sell now, it's very difficult. Uh, we look forward to selling these homes to hopefully families, young families. And yet we have a failing school system. Certainly not amongst the best for the kind of dollars we're paying here. And so it would be important, I think, to forge some kind of relationship between our village is connected with our school board in a real meaningful way that helps to do that. The current administration, as I've witnessed it, has not done a very good job with that. In fact, hasn't done a job at all. Doesn't seem to be very well informed, even though two of his appointees, one at the trustee level and the other as just an appointee, someone who I think I'm pretty sure does business with the village itself, village government itself, are assigned to areas to spearhead education. Neither of them being educators, neither of them investigating and using the massive resources we have out here of retired educators, professional retired educators, to help them answer many of these questions. So that would be refreshing to see that kind of relationship being garnered between the different levels of government. And that goes with the park districts as well. I think our parks could be much more developed, and it's going to take a person with outreach possibility. Was there another question in the
It was a comment. Holly Fingerly said, Desiree, I agree. Central, she meaning Rich Central High School, made more sense to close and develop. And then she also commented, if elected, please use the Education Commission to build a bench of better school board trustees with financial expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So no question, just
well, just to piggyback off of what Holly said, that's originally what I was trying to do as trustee when I was appointed as the liaison for the Education Commission. I noticed that everyone that sat on that commission had been there for 20 years. And so to me, if you've been on a commission for 20 years and we're still struggling, then something's wrong with that picture. And so I tried to recruit people, to Holly's point, with that particular background, the educational background. And these are people that I didn't even know. I actually, sent out an email requesting volunteers with this particular background, and people responded. I mean, a great number of people. I don't know if you remember, Constance. I submitted 23 volunteers to the village president, and he did not look at one of them. No. So moving forward, again, restructuring those committees and commissions and taking the input that you are giving me this evening, I would take all of that into account.
Okay, so we've pretty much those questions on education, I think, are thorough enough, gives us a rich enough background. I'm going to move to another area, and that would be the area of policing and safety, community safety. What are two major concerns that you have around policing? Also, What are two great things that you think our policing community does well?
Hmm. Constance, I don't really have a major concern with our police department. I think that they do a great job. One of the reasons why I moved here was because the community was safe. I sit outside. I don't have any tension. I don't feel like anyone's gonna come up and rob me. Now, mind you, it could happen, but I don't have that feeling. We all know that if you are from the city or been in the city, you're on alert. You're holding your purse tight. You're getting out your car, looking around.
Yeah.
I feel really relaxed here, and I think that has a lot to do with the police department. I have a great relationship with the police department. As a matter of fact, they said if they could endorse anyone, which they've never done in the history of Olympia Fields, they would endorse me. And so that speaks volumes to me. Um, as far as what was the second half of the question? So no issues, no challenge, no
No
issues.
issues.
But what I would like to do with anything, because the last 4 years has been very stressful, and it's been stressful for not only African American people, Black people, but it's been stressful for white people as well, especially those with a good heart and don't agree with the what's going on at a federal level. And we have some of the greatest people that I find in Olympia Fields that really care, and it's not based on skin color. And that's what I really love about our community. I can sit in somebody's house and I actually feel, you take the race part out of it. I actually feel that we are on the same page. We want the same things. We both care. And it's nothing like that in Olympic Fields. And I really love that. So I don't really have, I can't say anything bad about the police department, but what I would like to do is implement diversity training.
Mm.
And diversity training won't be anything to say, oh, they're doing anything wrong. It's just to add to it because I think the level of sensitivity is higher now, and I think they need to be a little more sensitive to certain things. And my son actually has lived here and gotten pulled over by the police before, and they're like, oh, okay, that's doesn't right. That doesn't right. But so I want diversity training is good for everyone. And
Mhm.
actually, diversity training should be at the village level as well.
Okay, all right. Bringing diversity training to the village. Well, that question kind of leads into naturally leads into this next area, which is reparations. How would you, as an African American woman, and I don't know that that's your total background, I don't know your parentage, and we can't always tell. I have a granddaughter who asked me, what is she? Because her father is African American and her mother is white. And she said, so what line do I fill out? I said, you fill out that one line that's at the bottom that says other. And she said, well, what do I put on the line? I said, human. So, and I think that that's a good way of thinking about us because all of us are very mixed up, but that's the point of the human race. So, but how do you feel about the piece on reparations where we saw in the news recently in Evanston, they began to do some things with reparations and housing and that kind of thing. Have you thought about that and what are your thoughts on that?
Hmm. Um, I absolutely agree with reparations, but again, I want to go back to my point that I made earlier, is that we don't need reparations to heal ourselves. We can have Black reparations, and what I mean by that is that Olympia Fields is majority Black. You're talking what 70%, if not more. And so if it's all about money, we know that, right? So if we just streamline our dollars into our community, we don't need reparations. We can heal ourselves. So it's to me, it's just like before you get sick, you know, you know, when you take medicine, it's reactive. So if you're exercising, eating properly, you're watching your diet, you're drinking your water, you won't need to you won't have any of those elements. So we need to be more proactive in what we do. And again, when it comes to money, You have to streamline it into our community. So, for example, if I bring that community bank and I say, Constance, and Deborah Harris, and Arthur Bird, and Lee Langan, and everyone is Holly, everyone on the call. If I say, hey, and we need to put $50 into this bank, we open up a bank account, at least put $50. Our employees direct deposit into this account. Our municipalities doing business with this bank. All of those things we heal ourselves. And so when businesses come in, now they can sustain themselves. So now they can get a loan from the bank. This is all layered, and that's how you have to think of everything. When a business comes in, they have to get a loan. Some of the businesses that tried to come here could not get loans. But if we had a bank, a community bank that we supported, guess what? The bank will support us. And so that's my goal moving forward.
By the way, who do we bank with at the village? Who's our?
Good question.
Oh, that's telling. That's the hill to transparency, right? We all know the answer to that question, even the trustees. So
I can't remember. I do know. I know which one, but I can't remember right now.
That's telling.
But I can
that's
tell you it's not a
telling.
community bank.
Yeah. So
Oh, Lee Langan has a question.
okay, Lee, go
Yep,
ahead.
it just popped in. So Lee says, public safety is paramount to everyone. However, we have to work to bring the expenses down. With the village our size and the budget is 70% of our budget, we need to take an honest look at this because it's not sustainable.
And
I'm not sure if it's exactly a question, but I guess you can comment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely will. There was a gentleman that got carjacked in his driveway over by, was it Olympia Fields East? And he reached out to someone that I know, and they called me and said, hey, you're a trustee in Olympia Fields. What's going on in Olympia Fields? Why is this person getting carjacked in his driveway? And so I reached out to another friend, and Marcus Evans, who's a state representative. He has a bill on the table. And a part of the bill is Operation Safe Pump. And I tried to bring Operation Safe Pump here, which, again, for us, it doesn't take, you don't have to wait until you get 20, 30 carjackings in the gas station or in your driveway. You have to catch it in the beginning. One or two is too many. So I tried to bring that here to Olympia Fields. There was a lot of pushback in the last meeting. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but safety and public safety is very important to me, so I definitely look at that.
Okay, I'm going to say to us as a very active member of the community, very involved. I often have to drive through our beautiful community. I can't quite describe it as beautiful and be accurate because everywhere I look, there's trash. Everywhere I look, there's fallen trees or debris somewhere that it should not belong to. And if you've heard me at the meetings expressing grave concern about the gray wall that surrounds a large part of Main Gate. And of course, the fencing that's east of that is equally as horrendous. Our current sitting mayor turned back $1 million+ beautification grant, governmental grant. And the only explanation given was that the village would have to pay too much money to sustain the grant. Again, there was no transparency. We don't know really what happened. But now that area is looking even worse. The wall is falling right down on top of itself. I'm afraid it is going to fall and hurt someone one day, making the village have to deal with lawsuits or whatever comes after all of that. The trash has not been maintained, even though we're paying people very decent wages to do this work. I drive through villages like, often get to go to places, other places in the area, but just west of us in Frankfurt, you don't see this amount of trash, of poor curbing and poor conditions on streets. And you don't see, you don't witness just the general letting go of taking care of property that we see and we envision here. I know that one of the reasons that's happening is because the current administration does not work well with others. That's the way I'm going to put it. Even when I drive down Western, which surrounds where the current administrator, president lives, that is trashy as well. And when we go a little bit north of that into Flossmoor, that trash is not there. So there are some things under beautification and infrastructure that I'd like you to elaborate on. What would be your priorities there? I've seen this kind of decay in the beginning of it in other communities. I'm a person who comes from the South Side, raised on the South Side. And so I was in Woodlawn when that began to fall apart. I used to shop in Inglewood when that begins. I know about Chatham and what happened. And this community, I'm concerned that it's going that same way. You know, all the businesses close and people pull out. Many of the businesses that we had here at Matson and even in Chicago Heights, those businesses have shifted west into a very hostile white community where I don't feel comfortable going over there because of past events dealing with racism. So, and my question is, why can't I have, the pleasure of shopping in my own community? If I want something more than to buy a screw to go with a nut to go on a wall, that would be Home Depot or Menards. If I could be able to access everything I need, the eateries and all of that here, but the streets, the curbs, the trash, I don't see how a business person, this would be attractive. I just don't. So would you expound, give us a little bit of how you, as a trustee and now running for the presidency, you get to the presidency, how will you handle those concerns?
Well, as trustee, I did get an ordinance passed where we're doing $1,000 grant for each HOA. That took a while to do. But I think by changing the committee and commission conference and putting the HOA presidents on that committee, then a lot of those concerns are going to be addressed because, again, we're all in this together. It's not about mandate, right? If we're all sitting there and we decide that, hey, we need to do a cleanup day, then it's not just your community doing it. Now it's all the entire village doing it. And so we can actually tackle, again, we can take care of ourselves. It's not that big. It's 2.9 miles. So I can walk, 5 miles if I really put my mind to it. So we can take care of ourselves, and we can alternate. We can say, okay, well, with this month, we're going to take care of Mangan. We're going to address some of those, issues. We're going to do a cleanup day. We're going to get, whatever children, a lot of kids are home now with COVID. We can get the kids together. We can make it fun. We can go out and clean up. But then, again, going back to employees, I have to hold people accountable. And I think a lot of people are running scared of a Watkins administration because they know I'm a worker and they know I'm going to make them work. And I remember speaking to a trustee that is a current trustee, and I was sharing with her, all of my ideas and, what we can do as trustees. And she looked at me and said, this is a part-time position for me. I'm not working that hard. And I'm like, well, why are you here? And so I know that's why people are so afraid of me, because they know my background and they know I'm a worker. You can tell the way I'm campaigning. If you think I'm campaigning hard, imagine me working in the position. So I'm really excited about just being in that position and holding people accountable. And we have a public works department. We have a staff. All of these things can be done in house. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not rocket science. A lot of the things, a lot of the complaints I'm hearing about are easy fixes, but yet they continue to go on year after year after year. And so that's something we can do this year. That's easy.
Did Lynn have something she was trying to say?
Oh, Lynn, you're on mute. Here, hold on. See if the button comes up. There you go. You're good.
Yeah, okay. I have a question, but prior to that, I want to commend you on being a good communicator. I am one of the people that needs to have lip reading, and you are doing a stellar job. So in that regard, you would anybody, because I have difficulty hearing a lot of people. But I wanted to move on to say, I'm wondering, I have lived in Park Forest since 1959 years old when I moved here. And I'm wondering, when you look at both villages, is there anything that you feel you would want to, let's see, what would the right word be? Adopt in terms of plans of, let's say, parks and recreation, let's say village volunteerism. I mean, all kinds of things. But do you know Park Forest well enough to know that it has a pretty well organized group? Not perfect, but pretty well. Anything that you'd like to carry over?
Yeah, thank you, Lynn, for that question. It's funny that you say that because as trustee, two of my favorite people that I work with and collaborate with are in Park Forest, and that's Joseph Woods and Maya Hardy. And I was actually with Maya the other day, and she's running again, so vote for Maya Hardy. She's an excellent person. She sits on the board for United Way. She actually works for United Way. I sit on the board. She works for United Way. Excellent person. And I have looked and studied Park Forest's information. And honestly, you are absolutely right. They are doing things right in Park Forest. And I've actually spoken to people over there in charge. And again, I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. I'm trying to say what works for Flossville, what's working for Frankfurt. I had a conversation with the mayor of Frankfurt 3 weeks ago. I will reach out to anyone. And guess what? They take my phone call and they say, Desiree, come on in, let's talk. So I had like a 2-hour conversation with him. He's not running again for mayor, which I'm kind of disappointed in, but he's willing to share, the peaks and valleys of Frankfurt, because Frankfurt hasn't always been the Frankfurt that we know today. And just like Mayor Braun over in Flossmar, I had a 2-hour conversation with him a month ago. I mean, so I am really being mentored by people around me. And not to say they know everything right, but guess what? I'm taking what works for Olympia Fields from them, and I'm going to apply it to us. So to answer your question, yes, and I love the comprehensive plan in Park Forest. So whoever did the comprehensive plan, I definitely plan on reaching out to them.
Well, and I'll make one last comment here. I am on the Park Forest Library Commission, and we present lectures once a week. And I went over to the Madison Library to talk to the people at that Madison Library about what do they do. And they made it very clear to me and opened up my mind to the fact that the things that Madison might like might not be the things that Park Forest likes. And so, I'm aware of that component. We're not all the same. We all have our different, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Lynn, call it different personalities.
That is great. That is great. So you touched on a few key things. This outreach piece. Again, there's no sense of that in the current administration. In fact, it's almost like shuttered. I don't know of any instance in these last his administration, where he has collaborated and reached out. I no, that doesn't happen. And I think we're at a disadvantage because now we're left to what you call reinvent a wheel, when we should only be tweaking something and getting better at it. So how will you work with, as president, how will you work with people who are running on a slate with the current sitting president that sends a message? How will you work to get people to cooperate with one another to the point that we can push this village ahead and not get stuck in stubborn agendas and personalities? What are your ideas on that?
Right. That's an excellent question. And I'm going to be totally honest with you, Constance. I think it's going to be a challenge in the first few months because with any change comes a little challenge. But I look at, when you think about human nature, you think about psychology. Nobody wants to be on a losing team. And so as long as we're winning and as long as we're bringing and we're headed in the right direction and they see you moving and they're getting left behind, guess what? They're going to try to catch up. So I'm not really concerned about the trustees that are actually running unopposed.
Yes.
I'm not concerned about the trustees, but I respect back to how I want to arrange the committees and commissions. I want to empower the trustees to do their job, and I want them to stay focused on why they're there. And they're not there because of me; they're there because of you. And so I have to, maybe have them sign like a promise slip or something, reminding them that they're here for the people. And you have to take the personal out of it. Once the election is over, once the people have spoken, and once the people are in place in their positions, then now becomes business. The personal has to be left aside. We have to get busy. We have to work for the village. And so I'm going to have a meeting with each trustee individually, unlike the current village president, who has never called my phone, not one time. He's emailed me maybe twice. So he does not communicate with all the trustees. He only communicates with a couple. And that's not the style that I have. So I'm going to meet with each trustee. I'm going to find out exactly what they want to do, what their vision is, how do they see their role as trustee. And just like when I started and I had my report, I'm back to holding people accountable. Mm-hmm. There are reports that should be done by trustees on a yearly basis. Mm-hmm. They're not being done. So I'm going to hold people accountable. And if they don't have it, guess what? I'm going to call them out on it. I'm going to say, well, trustee XYZ, do you have a report? If they don't have it, it'll be in the minutes that they don't have it, because they're there for you. You put them in office, you voted for them, and I respect you, my constituents. It's not about me. So I'm going to work with each trustee.
How will you encourage the voting public to participate more in village government, to be more participant? Name 3 things that you think would really bring us out and keep us going as a president of an HOA. Like you mentioned earlier, you get 3 to 5 people out of 260 some odd people come to a meeting, and when everything's going well, of course, you can do something wrong and they'll all be there, but as they should be. But there just seems to be so much apathy about attending. And I think part of that has to do, honestly, is because we feel like we're under a dictatorship that doesn't listen. So what are some, just give me 3 things that you think you could do starting off to get more participation.
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. Engagement is key. Mm-hmm. We have to engage the community. So, for example, if a newsletter comes out from the village, why are we not communicating what's going on in the entire village? Why are we just talking about just the municipality? There should be articles in there about Mangate. There should be articles in there about the trails. There should be articles in there about Olympia Club, Olympia Fields East. I mean, we should, again, be all represented because a lot of times, again, even within our own village, we're disconnected. So how do you bridge that gap? Because, Mangate against the trails or the trails against Olympia Club, or, they even say it. They're like, oh, we don't do it like that. We don't do it. No. We're all in this together. But I think once the HOA presidents are at the same table and they're on the same accord, then I think the song changes. And so that's key. So we're talking about engagement. That's first and foremost. And then so once you engage them, I think the rest is kind of easy. Just like when I said when I moved here to the trails, we had the same problem, 5 to 10 people coming to the meeting. All I did literally was create a newsletter and planned activities. I mean, what's wrong with having a farmer's market once a month during the summer? Yeah. What's wrong with, I'm really into green sustainability. Mm-hmm. So as we're moving forward with public works and everything, I'm looking at green sustainability and replacing some of that road work with green pavers. They do have green pavers. And so I brought the MWRD here to the table with my coffee conversation a couple weeks ago. And those are things that should be communicated even for residents. If you're changing your driveway or you're laying down anything, you can use green pavers. I mean, all of this is all about communication. And I think once we get there, once we start engaging people, then everything else will fall into place because now you feel as though you're a part of the community. Right now, everything is so disjointed, and so we got to start from the basics. Let's just bring this together first, and then from there, see what happens.
You talked about $1,000 that was going to be given to each of the HOAs. Mm-hmm. Has that been done, or is that a planned activity?
No, it was just an ordinance that was just passed through the beautification committee. And so the letter should be coming out soon.
Okay. Oh,
okay. And so you would apply for a grant to do, your interest. Mm-hmm. So it's $1,000 for the interest.
Oh, that would help us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I thought too.
Yeah, that would help.
That's why I pushed for it.
Okay, all right, great job. Now, do we have any more questions?
There aren't any in the chat currently. So
then I would
I was going to say I have a question about economic development.
Okay.
Is there anything that you in particular have ideas about in terms of engaging your residents to patronize the Olympia Fields businesses more often?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know your name because it just says Save Our Southland.
That's Gina.
It's Gina. Gina Davis Morales. Yes, nice to meet you.
That's a great question. I do have an idea. I think that we should have Olympia Fields pages where all businesses are represented in the pages, and even people who have home businesses, because there's a gentleman in Greatmore that picks up my laundry. Nobody knows about that. So, I think all businesses should be listed in what we call the Olympia Fields pages. And so that's a part of engagement, right? And Gina, what was your question again? Because I think I'm going off onto the page.
No, yeah, that's okay. Just ideas on how to get more people or more residents or even communities around Olympia Fields to want to, attract to the businesses that are already there.
Exactly. And a lot of times we don't even know what's here, right?
Right.
And so, and then we have to come up with a plan, like a marketing plan. This is what a municipality comes in. See, I'm a small business owner, so I know from both sides. I'm in government and I'm a small business owner. So I know what I would want as a small business. So we have to come up with a plan to market our companies to our residents as well. So again, that's a part of that page, that Olympia Fields pages. And then we can offer something, whether it's a gift card, whether it's coupons or something. Maybe it's, Monday Dunkin' Donuts half off or whatever it is at the time. We have to come up with that marketing plan because people really just drive to their normal spots and come home. So we have to create that.
We have a business owner on tonight participating with us, Deborah Harris. I don't know if you've seen the entryway of Main Gate at Christmas time, but that was her work. She does a beautiful work with that type of decoration. She also does baskets. When someone new moves into Main Gate, we give them a welcome basket, and she is the person who supplies that for us. And you're right, we do. We have a PPE company in Main Gate that's headed by one of our by Randy Alexander, who also sits on the Board of Education. And it would be a great resource to be able to, in all of these HOAs, to find out who's doing what while we're taking our money, spending it elsewhere. And here you have all these wonderful small businesses right here, but nobody knows that anybody exists. And so, you're limited by that. And I highly recommend, if you want to do something really great for someone in the way of a basket or a way of decorations and things like that, that you get a hold of Mrs. Harris. And I know you would be more than satisfied. So it's such great ideas.
So Constance, that goes back to, again, the CRC. If it's all the HOAs,
yes,
the HOA presidents, then they're sending out an email to their neighbors saying, hey, please submit your business, your address, what you do, and then we can compile it and put it into a book. But as just a municipality, it'd be very difficult for just us to do it. But guess what? If you guys are sitting at the table, it's much easier.
Yeah.
So again, streamlining those dollars, those commerce dollars, are very important.
There was a comment.
Yes, Lee Langan said, SOS, support our Southland. We need a robust marketing plan. I'm happy to hear you will partner with elected officials and surrounding communities.
That we will, that we promise to do. So I'm going to say, if we have no more comments and questions, then I want to yield this time to Trustee Desiree Watkins, soon to be president of the village of Olympia Fields. We hope we're going to work for that. We are working for that. So I'd like to yield the rest of this time to you, as you were the candidate who responded, and let you just tell us what's in your heart.
Constance, that's so sweet. Well, all I can say is that there's something bigger working here, in my opinion. I'm a very spiritual person, and I did not plan to be in this position. But you know how that little voice just keeps talking to you and it keeps pushing you forward. And so I just believe that I'm here for a reason, and I'm just answering the call. And I'm here for you. It's not about the title for me. Me and my husband, we do very well. It's not like I need to be doing this, but I want to do it and I desire it, and I'm going to do a great job. So I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I will always be transparent. I will always do the best that I can do, and I'll always be honest. And if I can't do it, I'll bring somebody to the table that can. So I just appreciate
we certainly wish you well on this and that.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me this evening.
Do we have any other comments? Any?
No, nothing else has come through, so I can put up the kind of our little closing slide so that we can see the next event, which is scheduled for tomorrow. Let me see. There we go. Whoop. Hold on one moment for me. I'm sorry. Thank you for all of our participants who sent in questions in the chat box. We appreciate that. Let me see. Here we go. Okay, so Connie, I don't know if you wanted to read this off or you want me to?
You can read it off. Go ahead.
Sure. So again, thank you for participants, and thank you, Desiree, for taking the time out of your Friday evening. I know you could have been doing a lot of other things, and so could of our attendees. So we appreciate attendees that you logged on and submitted questions in the chat box. We appreciate that interaction. Our next candidate forum is going to be tomorrow evening, Saturday. Oh, it sure does say Friday on there. I apologize. Saturday, and that's going to be March 13th, 6:30 p.m. You can register at the shortened link, the bit.ly/district 227, or I'm sorry, DIST 227. This video will be uploaded to YouTube and shared on our Facebook and our group and public page on Facebook. You can look for that by typing in Save Our Southland SOS on Facebook. And then if there's any questions, comments, anything like that, you can put that in our email as well, which you see on the screen. We do have a feedback survey in which I can pop right into the chat box for you. Mm-hmm. We would appreciate your feedback. This helps us improve our process and make sure that we, continue to improve. We want to make sure that the forums are great for candidates and for our attendees as well. And I'm going to go ahead and pop that in the chat box right here. So please click on that link. It's a very short couple of questions that'll help us improve our feedback or improve our processes. And outside of that, I think that's really it. We're ending pretty much.
Are the candidates able to use the YouTube videos and recordings of this to send out to their constituents?
Sure. Yep. As soon as they're posted live, we can go ahead and make sure that we email them out to all the candidates that were involved, and really we'll probably share those links to email them to all of the races together, so that it's all going to be on the same YouTube channel, so you'll be able to browse the videos that are on there. We're doing our best to make sure that it's posted up within 24 hours of the forum. So 24 hours from now, we'll hopefully get that link right up there. If for any reason it's later than that, reach out and we can make sure we get it done. But I have plenty of time tomorrow to make sure this gets up within that 24-hour window.
Thank you for coming, members of the community. I hope these things get more and more popular. As you can see, very valuable information is shared with us about the voting, the candidates who are asking for our votes. We want the vetting processes in place to help us all make better decisions around who we select to sit in office, and not be so surprised by things as they unfold after they take office. To hold people accountable for making this a better community, and all of our communities better communities. Because as Trustee Watkins said, we're not in this alone. We're not an island unto ourselves. We are all very interconnected. And the work that Holly has done throughout this process, keeping us abreast of things going on in Flossmoor, Homewood, all over the Southland. This is the spirit of SOS, is to try to provide that platform to make those critical connections and to keep us informed and well-educated on the decisions that we're going to make around this. So thank you all for coming.
And I admire your stamina, Desiree, to go through this whole long hour. It's like you're a congressional member. Of course, so you are a strong woman. You are a strong woman. Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you.
Holly, do you have any closing comments?
I take a lot of B12, Lynn.
Does work. Holly, do you have any comments?
No, I just wanted to thank Desiree for taking the time to chat with us tonight. And we truly appreciate all your efforts to inform the community and unite everyone. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Lee and Deborah, and we appreciate everybody's participation tonight. And
Arthur
that
was
is
on here
the
too.
end.
Arthur was
Oh,
on.
yes, Arthur
Bird.
Bird was on there. Yes, he actually logged off just a minute or two ago. So we appreciate your participation and your attendance here tonight. Thank you so much for your questions.
So before, I want to say something once you turn the recorder off.
Sure. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and keep this open just for a moment more to say goodbye to our attendees, and we will see you tomorrow night. Hopefully, everybody join back on tomorrow night at 6:30 for our next forum for the Rich Township School District candidates for District 227. Thank you so much.